Got it.
Okay.
All right. Go. So like, okay, so thanks for everyone gathering today. Mike, I see you're in the Sanctum Centaurum, so
yes.
I was not ready for that.
Yeah.
I was ready for that. Amazing.
I came prepared.
You're more prepared than me. Thanks for everyone. The discourse for Multiverse of Madness has been so fascinating since it came out, and on top of that, the other multiverse movie that came out this year, it's kind of hard to sort of not look at both those films. And granted, at the end of the day, Everything Everywhere All at Once and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness are vastly different movies with vastly different goals. But it is sort of fun to kind of look at the two movies and go, you're asking the audience for this, and you're asking the audience for this. And it's kind of hard to not see the parallels of both movies. That's why I kind of wanted to discuss both today. So Mike, by the way, how is the Sorcerer Supreme over there?
He was good. Everything's good. Reality's good. Everything's good. Everything's all protected. Don't worry, guys. We're good.
Okay, you sure? That sounded kind of nervous about that. No, it's fine.
Everything is fine. Nobody freak out.
Yeah.
Everything is under control.
Everything's under control. It's not like anyone had to go back in time and stop somebody to fix everything and then restore it back to this moment. None of that happened.
No.
Yeah.
None of that. But okay, to go into it, I guess we'll start with Multiverse of Madness first in terms of brief talk. So what was everyone's general kind of feelings when they first saw the movie?
Of course. Law, you wanted to go first?
Sure. Yeah. I think the easiest way I could describe it is that I liked it, but I didn't love it. I think I liked it more. The more I've seen it, I think I only saw it 2 times, but the second time around and watching people's reactions and then looking at kind of what everyone was saying, I could find the bits that I liked a lot and I could find the bits that I loved, but I could also point out the things that I wish were different about the story because I didn't want to go in with my own expectations, but I felt underwhelmed by kind of where the multiversal story went. But I still think it works as a story at the same time. I think it's a really great, strange sequel. I think it still works in that sense. And I mean, Justin and I got to watch it together. It is Raimi to the 10,000th degree, right? Like there were moments in the theater where we would be I kept hearing Justin go, "Okay, Sam," because there would be a jump scare or something so traditionally Sam Raimi that he'd just be like, okay, all right, Sam, let's calm down with that. And it just made me so happy to see it with fans of Raimi, and who could appreciate all those little Raimi-isms throughout it. And those are the parts that I love the most. And I think, liked it, but didn't love it. And I certainly liked the first Strange more than this one.
Yeah. I will take one notch above yours and say I really liked it, but I also did not love it. It's not a knock on the movie. It's a perfectly great Doctor Strange movie. And I think, the thing that killed this movie were people's expectations that this was going to be something larger than that. My light went out. Okay, sorry.
Oh no! Oh no!
There we go. Okay, it's going in.
Thanos is here.
Yeah, we're all good. No, I think people's expectations destroyed this movie. I think you were coming off of WandaVision, which got a largely, really hugely, positive reception to the point where it was nominated for Emmys. Elizabeth Olsen was nominated for Best Actress in a miniseries. And Wanda went from this second string or third string character that no one really cared that much about, especially compared to the original 6 Avengers, to one of the most popular characters in the MCU. So when you're going into this movie expecting Wanda to be the hero, and it turns out, spoiler alert, by the way, if you're watching this and you didn't think that we were going to go into spoilers after 3 weeks of this movie being in theaters, you really need to recheck your expectations there.
Wait, how did you even get here? Is always my question.
Like, why are you even watching this?
Or if you don't care about spoilers at all, then mazel tov. That's awesome. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that a large part of the complaints that people had were coming from Wanda's stance, who wanted her to be like the hero, or at least the partner of Doctor Strange here, the team up aspect of it, or people that thought that this was going to go into really crazy, reshape the MCU kind of ways. And those were actually really unfair expectations to have for this movie. This is a very good, with the exception of WandaVision, this is a very good standalone movie in and of itself as a Strange story, because you can't get away with necromancy or music note fights or anything like this in any other Marvel Heroes movies. You got a very good Doctor Strange movie here that you don't really need to see anything except WandaVision for. And I don't think that the movie should be dinged for being really good at what it is. I think people are going to ding it because, let's be honest, audiences have gotten a little spoiled. They want everything to affect everything. They want the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield effect and everything like that. But sometimes they can't just be happy with a standalone, good, one-off movie. And I think that that's what Multiverse of Madness really is. So really good, but not incredible, blow my socks off great,
I'm pretty much where you two are at. I think I might be leaning towards, because I saw it twice, I think I'm leaning towards closer to maybe Law, in that I like it, maybe even like it a lot to the degree, Mike. Every once in a while I'll think about a bit from that movie. But yeah, I also didn't love it. And I think part of the thing about maybe why I didn't love it, instead of liking it a lot, is like I walked out of this movie and I feel like I'm still not as connected to Stephen Strange as a character as I am with other MCU characters, and that's fine. And I know people love that character too as is, but I always feel like I feel like they haven't quite nailed exactly what Stephen Strange, in me, to my taste, I feel like they haven't quite nailed what makes him unique in comparison to everyone else. And at worst, he's Tony Stark light. At worst, I don't think he's that in this movie because it's his movie. But at best, he is a kind of a standard unit of arrogant but kind of fun arrogance, which is fitting to the character. I think Benedict keeps getting more comfortable the more he does the role, and this one I really, really liked what he did here. I think this is definitely, clearly, by the time this is, I don't know, like fourth or fifth appearance as the character, and he's already like, oh, I know exactly how to play Stephen Strange, and I think he's a lot of fun in it. And yet I can sort of see maybe that's one of the problems for the movie for me, is that like I kind of still feel like how I feel about Stephen Strange is where I felt about Stephen Strange at the end of Endgame. Kind of the same. And I don't hate the character, but I also am really still not like loving the character. And I don't have to do that for every one of these movies and shows. There's a lot. I'm bound to not love one of them or some of them. But I can say, like, okay, that might be a wall that I'm just hitting with Doctor Strange as a character, And whatever you both said about the agree on the Raiminess, agree on the characterization of the use of Wanda and etc. And it's a good, solid story by itself. I don't know how to add more to what you both said, other than that was kind of my one personal opinion of it. So.
In its defense, it is the best movie involving wizards in 350,000 theaters, this year. So I'm just going to put that out there, that of the two movies that came out that involved wizards in over 3,000 theaters, it is the best one.
No, I don't. That's not an argument. That's a safe, solid. I always say opinion, fact. Because that other one.
That exists.
That's there.
Exists. That whole series exists.
That's whole.
It is there to make Doctor Strange look good.
But should we talk about the movie that makes Doctor Strange look kind of bad.
Do it.
Yeah.
Everything everywhere all at once, baby. Like I
Yes.
I think collectively we've gushed about it. Individually, we've raved about it online, but it's definitely time. I'd love to have this
Yes.
conversation with you
Yeah.
guys now.
Do it.
Yeah.
It's time. Justin, you take us off because I want to hear what you think. In the same sense that we did our little blurbs. What's your take on this beautiful movie? Not to lead you into an opinion, but it's a beautiful movie.
I have seen the film 3 times. Third time was at IMAX because I needed to see it that way. It's a movie that not only am I in love with it, I'm like consistently shocked and surprised and relieved how many people have gone to me like I made it, it's so weird. Like a lot of people, like, because they know I'm the movie person in the group, right? So like they want to say, oh, I saw it. And almost I have not gotten a single person who went up to me and went, I don't get it. Every person has went up to me and went, at minimum, that's one of the best movies I've seen. Like the last year. Ever. That's one of the best movies I've seen. And it's affecting, if you're Asian American, it rings truer to you in a different way, but also my non-Asian American friends who have went up to me to talk about it, they get the same emotional connection to that film. So I feel like there's something kind of special about that movie where, when I saw it the first time, I went, well, I love it, but it's a very film guy will like this movie. Like a film person who's super deep into like all kinds of movies will like this movie. It will be that one where I'm gonna have to be like, oh, I love it, but not everyone's gonna be into it. And I am like weirdly shocked how many people have connected, and relieved how many people are connecting with this incredibly weird, beautiful little movie that has hot dog fingers and butt plugs, and yet also an emotional core that like makes me cry every time I get to the third act. So
Justin, just really quick, it's so funny because you made that thing, or like people come to you being like, talking to you as if you made it, right?
Yeah.
I while you were talking about this movie, I felt proud as if it was something that I made. I was like, oh, we did so good. Oh man, yeah, our movie's great. As if I did anything to deserve that. Sorry, I cut you off. Just
no, I'm good. Mike, though, you're really recent.
I'm late to the game, guys. For everyone watching, it's not because I didn't want to just run out and watch this movie immediately. I actually really did opening weekend, and I really, really regret not doing it opening weekend. Not like this is a spoiler sort of thing where, you spoil something and the MCU is ruined for you or whatever. This is Everything Everywhere All at Once is a very good self-contained movie, and thank God, there wasn't a whole lot. I avoided enough. To keep it very fresh for myself. But I literally just saw this thing last week, and I wish I'd seen it sooner. I really love this movie. I do think it is probably my favorite movie of the year. I will say the reason that I wish that I saw it earlier was because it did get a little overhyped for me. When you read everyone's reviews saying that it's amazing, it's the best movie ever made, all of that, I came out of it thinking I've seen the best movie this year, but not of all time, versus what some of the folks were saying. It is an incredible movie. It is incredibly imaginative. I do need to see it a second time because it's also incredibly convoluted. The rules that they set up for you, there's so much at once. It's sensory overload, and you're loving every moment that you are being overloaded. But a lot of it, you don't have any time at all to process information that they've given you prior to introducing something new. So you're really just getting hit in the face with the multiverse. Quite really, really hard.
A lot.
It's amazing. I've never seen a movie this ballsy, this out there, this inventive, and yet this grounded. It's wonderful about how you know, we see it and we identify with it as an Asian story, you know, because we all are Asians. But more importantly, there's a universality to this film and what it talks about in regards to how she's dealing with just the messiness of life, which is just a problem everyone deals with, and how it comes to her all at once, just like the movie does, you know. And you come out with that overwhelming feeling. Obviously, you connect the dots, you feel what she's feeling, and that helps everyone connect to this movie on an emotional level, regardless of whether they're Asian or not. Yeah. And I think that is at its core the most beautiful thing about this movie, and that's why I love it. Now, granted, I went in really overhyped, so I ended up having to temper my expectations after that, but. I can't wait to see it again. I really need to take in a lot more of the information because it was just like all at once. But amazing.
Law, before you jump, I kind of want to just with Mike, I totally get that. You know, and that's sort of a shame. I was worried when you were like, I'm gonna go when you said, hey, I saw it, and I'm like, oh man, you're at that, like you said, you're at that point where everyone's been gushing about this movie for pretty much a month. But I feel like clearly it still worked on you because you've already said it's your favorite movie of the year.
Yeah, it's my favorite movie of the year. There's no question about it.
Yeah. So
no other movie does what this movie does, and that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Law.
I mean, that was beautifully said, Mike, and I agree with both of you guys. There's so much charm to the movie, and it's weird as hell. I don't know if I my brain can think in such inventive ways, you know, of storytelling. And the performances were off the charts. Stephanie Hsu blew me away.
Yeah.
There's a specific scene where it's just breaking the fourth wall, this really tight shot, and you just see so much in her eyes and her expression, and it's just like, this is one still shot. And you gotta give it up to not only the Daniels, who are incredible geniuses, evil geniuses, as Michelle Yeoh likes to call them, but like, you have to think about the team behind it. It was not a big production. It was 7 people who did music videos did the VFX on the whole movie. They made the veggies that Henry Shum Jr. Harry Shum?
Harry Shum, yeah.
Harry Shum Jr. was
Raccacoonie.
Raccacoonie. All of those were drawn in Procreate on an iPad that were then put into After Effects and animated. The scene where she's falling back in the chair, all of that footage was actually filmed by a guy on his off time going down corridors because he was like, I know we're not going to have time to film these exterior shots. So he had a little 4K camera in his pocket just walking down corridors, and they put it together. And you could see this behind the scenes stuff. If you go on the Daniels Instagram, they did a great little like story where you can see everyone's hard work, from the production designers to the lighting rigs, like all that practical lighting. You see how they did that.
Yeah.
And like, all of that just makes me love this film on a deeper level than I did the first time that I saw it. Because I'll be honest, the first time that I saw it, I was in a room of stuffy critics, and I was like, is anyone having fun besides me? I was like laughing out loud. I cried like 5 times because it's one of those movies that just finds moments to hit you in your emotional gut, and you just have to release some kind of expression, right? Yeah. And I was just like looking around being like, oh man, maybe people won't like this movie. Maybe it's too weird. And then when I saw it in real theater, and I saw it with real people and started talking to real people about like friends' opinions, whose opinions I care about, I'm like, oh man, this is something different and special. And that's proven by the box office, and it's proven by the hype. And it's unfortunate that I can't make more people watch it. I want, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just one of those classics for me, and it sounds hyperbolic, and I'm one of those people that maybe helped overhype things for you, Mike, but this is like one of my favorite movies of all time. And I don't know where it fits. You know, I think that question is very nebulous anyway, but it's up there. It's floating around in the top 5 or 3, you know what I mean? If not at number 1, you know?
Yeah.
Such a beautiful movie, and it's kind of perfect to me. Like, I don't have a lot of complaints. I think the only complaint is that I can't just keep watching it on repeat.
It is, and I think for me, one of the things I love about it so much is the kind of like genre mashing that I love. You know, like it's a movie that goes, hey, what movie do you want to make? And sometimes someone goes like, oh, I want to make a character piece, a drama or a comedy, why, or a slapstick thing, a horror film. And Daniel's answer for this movie is all of it. We want to make
everything,
every movie in one movie. So it is a drama. It is a comedy. It's one of the funniest things I saw this year. It is an amazing action movie.
Yeah,
it's a sci-fi movie.
Sci-fi, baby.
It's sci-fi, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a wuxia, or no, sorry, not wuxia. A kung fu movie.
Kung fu movie.
Kung fu
yeah,
movie.
Yeah.
It's all of them. It's all these movies because they just want to make all these movies. And and I kind of like, I'm a big fan of like kind of like someone making a movie that went, well, what movie do you want to make? And they're like, I don't know, I might not make another movie ever again, so let me just try to do it all at once. And and like maybe it's a mess, maybe it's not a mess. And I think this is a case of like the Daniels like knew that they had something wild in mind, had the idea, and then went, but what's the center of the movie? What's the center of this, to put it in a better word, insanity? What's the best, what's the story? And the fact that there is this emotional story about family, a very complicated, great family relationships, which are complicated.
Yeah.
And it's cemented in there. And like Law, there you did that interview with Jamie Lee Curtis and Michelle Yeoh, and I love that you literally told them, like, I think my like new favorite genre in film is generational trauma. And like there is something about that like it's true. We talked about it when we did Shang-Chi a little bit. And it's transferred over to Turning Red, my other favorite movie of the year. And it's here. And it's like I saw a guy on TikTok who made a video and went, I'm so glad for all of this Asian representation, but why all the trauma? Like he's Asian and he gets it, but he's like kind of but why all the trauma? I'm emotionally wrecked for the last 4
Emotional damage.
He used that clip too, so yeah, I get he got what he's going for. But yeah, no, it is. But yet again, I don't know how to kind of point out that fact that like, yeah, you brought that up, and I think, what was Michelle's answer to that? I kind of forgot. If you can kind of reiterate.
Well, it's a very proud moment for me because I made them both laugh, which just made my heart warm. But she agreed. She was like, it's important to tell now, stories about generational trauma, because it's a conversation that needs to be had. That's exactly what she said. And I agree. I don't know if I've had a lot of difficulty talking about stuff that separates my generation from my parents' generation and trying to like level with them. And they always saw me as an American kid growing up, and I did too, and that was different. That meant different things from those perspectives. And to see a journey, while I'm not quite like Joy or Joe Butapaki, there was a lot about her that I was like, damn, this is me. But then also there were moments where it were Waymond, and I was like, damn, this is me. Just the way that family can treat each other, and through the generations, it bleeds through, right? And that trauma bleeds through. And so I'm so grateful of, one, I got to talk to them, but to also get such a great answer about something that's really important. And I feel like I'm part of the conversation. You know what I mean? Like, like we're doing it. And so now the next step is like talking to our own families. Thanks.
One thing at a time.
All right, slow down.
Or we just don't, and we just rewatch this to deal with it. I think that's.
Let's get the hell out of here.
I mean, here's the thing. If you think about it, it's, a lot of the filmmakers that are putting these together, Domesh Shi, one of the Daniels, of course, they are Asian, and they obviously know what it's like to have. To know how difficult a conversation like this would be. And you could even talk about it, but you might not get, you won't get received necessarily. You know, so how do you deal with something like this? You make something and you speak your truth and you speak what feels real to you, and that's how you make a genuinely good movie, one that connects with people. That's why it connects with us so much. You know, I to answer, and I know it's a joke, why all the emotional trauma? It's because it's the only outlet sometimes that we have is putting this together. And you know, even when you put this together, even if the rest of the world has seen it and can identify with you, odds are your parents still won't. You know, that's just the case. That's just the truth of it. They'll see it and they'll be like, I don't get it. This isn't weird. Or if they go, oh, you know, that poor protagonist in the movie, what about me? Who cares about you? You know, I mean, that's what it means to be Asian, you know?
Yeah, no, that's 100%.
Unfortunate truth, I think.
And I think it's actually it's such a beautiful thing that we're at a point right now where we're getting more Asian filmmakers. And thank you again to John M. Chu for really paving that way and making a huge successful movie and changing the game so that more people who have our story can actually make that movie. And the reason that we're getting them in bulk now is because we've never seen this abundance of Asian filmmakers getting out there and telling their truth and telling their story. And it happens to be very similar to all of our stories. So that's why the emotional trauma, that's why we have it. That's why it's needed. It's because that's our lives, and we're finally getting the chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's necessary.
And I
think bottlenecked. Yeah.
It bottlenecked. No, you're right. No, it bottlenecked, especially with the Asian American filmmakers who are having the opportunity, or the Asian filmmakers who are second gen, who are having the opportunity to tell these stories. And you know, it's, again, I always think back on my period when I went to like you know, Asian American film festivals, especially in the early to mid 2000s, and all the stories were about figuring themselves out. You know, like, what am I, a person who was born here? How do I fit in? Is a lot of those early like independent Asian American movies, and that is one of those stories. But I remember never relating to those stories when I saw those movies. So I was like, I get it, but I didn't really struggle with that. I'm Filipino. I grew up here. I don't even look like other Filipinos. My skin's a little lighter than some. It's because I have some Chinese in me. So I have like because my grandma was like half Chinese, so I have a little bit of that mixed in. So even I don't fully feel. Sometimes I don't even, you know, not going too much into this. I don't sometimes feel like I'm fully Filipino because I don't look like some other Filipinos. But I got that story, but that's not what I struggled with. But when I'm starting to see with these movies and like Tiger Tail, that Alan Yang did back in 2020, I'm like, no, this I'm getting.
That's mine.
That's me. That's me. And the story is, how do we talk and understand our parents? And the fact that, like, you know, it's like you said, like even though John M. Chu started the, you know, the success of you can have a fun romantic comedy with Asian Americans in the lead and they could be successful. So you can't call that out. You can't say that doesn't work. But now that everyone else is getting the opportunity to stand up and make these movies, they're going, cool, but we have something else we want to talk about. And
even like Shang-Chi, that is generational trauma too, but it's a $200 million big budget Marvel Studios MCU movie. So the fact that you're taking these popular forms and platforms and injecting you know, your story and your truth into that, you know, your experiences, that's making things a lot more beautiful. So we don't have to do, no offense, because Crazy Rich Asians is a lovely movie, but
I like it. Of course.
We don't have to do something that just appeals to the general masses. You know, you could tell a deeper, richer story than, you know, a 5-quadrant film. But also put it in a 5-quadrant film like Turning Red or like, you know, Shang-Chi. And now, because it appears it's become a 5-quadrant film, Everywhere All at Once, I think, has become one, you know, so.
Which is wild to say.
Yeah.
Because this movie has hot dog fingers and butt plugs. And like,
I thought it would be, but yeah, absolutely.
You know? Movie made for us.
Movie made for us. Movie made for, yeah. How about that?
For all of us.
But, so to kind of dive it back into the conversation of the Doctor Strange and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Again, like I do want to point out once again, I know they are actively two separate things, but you know, because I've seen both these movies multiple times, I can't help but think, oh yeah, I'm seeing some parallels here and there. The parallel I kind of had I sort of joked about is that in Everything Everywhere All at Once, Michelle Yeoh as Evelyn, as found out by Alpha Wayman, that she is the worst Evelyn.
Yeah.
She's the one that never achieved any of her goals, unlike every other Evelyn, which made me laugh, which I does an amazing job.
It made me laugh too.
Yeah. But then as I was watching Doctor Strange, America points out that why doesn't this Steven know as much as other Stevens? And he's not even the Sorcerer Supreme in the MCU. And I laughed at, does that make him the worst Steven?
That's a great observation. I didn't even think about that. That's hilarious.
I think it depends on your definition of worst. You
Sure.
know, like least talented, least accomplished, very possible, you know. Very, very possible.
Very, very possible. But I guess it kind of turns him into the underdog, much like Evelyn gets to become the underdog.
It does. And it keeps this version of Stephen Strange a little bit pure-hearted and less callous than his counterparts, you know, as in the movie.
No, agree. No, especially when you look at like the Defender Strange, as they call him, in the beginning of the film. It's kind of a bummer because you see like, oh, him in America seem like they've gotten to be like almost like Doctor Who and companion situation. Where they've gotten close, and then just because he feels like he ran out of options, he was going to kill her, and that's like, ooh, what the, ooh, no, that pear shaped bad, you know.
This movie, you're supposed to save lives, not take them. That's another famous doctor movie called Morbius, everyone.
Oh God.
You lagged a little bit, Law.
Yes, you lagged a little bit, but then we caught Morbius, so now we're not going to ask you any more questions. We're just going to move on.
We're just going to move on. And...
no, I'm kidding. What were we going to say?
No,
please quote that movie.
I said, you're supposed to save lives, not take them. About Doctor Strange.
He does say something similar in the first movie, I'll say that much.
That's true.
He said it before Morbius. Take that, Morbius.
We're that it. Is that a multiverse movie too? I'm so confused.
Sony thinks it is.
Let's not break into that part.
No, right, we're gonna put that over here.
Sony thinks it is, but then after they finish filming it, they're like, "What's a multiverse?"
You have a whole movie. You have two movies. Both of them are Spider-Man. You know what? Forget it.
Never mind.
Never mind.
Well, when a smart kid does your homework for you, you're still not going to know the answers at the end of that test. So, I'm just going to say that.
I do want to talk about the multiversal aspect of both, just because it's hard not to compare them. But like
Morbius and Doctor Strange?
So in Morbius, right? I think the approach is perfect. When Adrian Toomes comes in with his... I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. All right.
It's amazing. Best movie of the year. I wish Jared Leto was the lead in Everything Everywhere.
Blasphemy.
But I will say that when I saw the trailer for Multiverse of Madness, there's a scene where they're breaking through the different dimensions. And I said to myself, oh man, it's either they're not showing us a bunch and this is just like a little tease of what we'll see, or this is all of it. And we're going to get like a couple worlds. And I was right. I was a little disappointed by that. Whereas the Everything Everywhere All at Once found a way to play with the concept of the multiverse while still being really, really clever about locations and like budget. And I found a parallel, just to speak to kind of like Justin finding parallels in the dream walking versus the verse jumping. You're kind of inhabiting, instead of inhabiting the body, you're inhabiting the skills, I guess. The way that you could think about that. But I was just like, man, it's just so much more interesting the way that, like having them have to do something weird adds like a little bit of charm to it. It doesn't seem so easy anymore because, Wanda's just like blip, blop, bloop. And then Doctor Strange is like blip, blop, bloop, It's like, oh, it doesn't have to be a living body. It's just like all these rules are getting made up. But we are like kind of to the point that Mike said, it is a convoluted film but they do give you kind of the rules of the reality right off the bat. They're like, this is the reality we live in right now, and you're along for the ride, you know. And that becomes more and more, or less and less important as the film goes on, almost, you know, because it's no longer about sci-fi and stuff. It's about this family and specifically Evelyn. But like, just to compare the two multiversal approaches, I was just like, man, why did I get more excited about the multiversal aspects of Spider-Man than I did Doctor Strange? You know what I mean? Like, I love the cameos, but if I didn't get that shit spoiled, I probably would have been stoked in the theater, but I had that shit spoiled for me.
That
so like,
sucks
even
so
that
much.
moment, because that kind of like surprise energy was zapped away from it, that's why it felt very mid to me, because there was nothing really like fulfilled me in the same way that Everything Everywhere found ways to fulfill me with the concept of this like multiverses are goofy, man. Like, but like a paint universe versus hot dog fingers, I'll take hot dog fingers to the end of time. You know what I mean? Like,
and I think that speaks to one of the most beautiful aspects of the movie. You know, when Evelyn's on the staircase, the goofiness of all of these universes, she finds beauty in every single one of them, and I think that's where she kind of adapts and adopts Wayman's way of thinking and connects her to her husband even more. You know, you needed that goofiness and you needed that volatility and that randomness to get her from nihilism to optimism and positivity, to see things in Wayman's way. So it's a very important aspect to have things be completely out there and completely nuts and completely crazy, because as she says, even in a universe where you've got stupid hot dogs for fingers, there's still something beautiful about that, you know. And their feet become their hands, basically. And plus that amazing cutaway gag of that evolutionary splint where like the hot dog finger leaves.
It's like I forget about that every time I've watched it. I don't know why my brain just wants to go, I want you to forget about this 2001 bit every time you go see this movie. And
it's such a surprise.
So funny. Oh my god.
I think it's fair to bring up the kind of mild disappointment of lack of real multiverse exploring. Because you're right. Like it's two? Just two universes we really get to hang out with. Three. Thank you. You're right. And it is kind of like, when you say your title is Multiverse of Madness, I expect, like, you know, Benedict Cumberbatch playing 90 versions of Strange. You know what I mean? And maybe
including Benedict Cumberbatch.
Including and like, you know, like that's the movie I thought I was getting. And I you know, when we get to the one universe where it looks like Doctor Strange died as a hero and etc., and we got the now infamous Illuminati scene, I was hoping that, like, oh, okay, cool, so this is like the first of many. And you're right, we only got the one, and it's fine, but like, with Everything Ever All at Once, like 2 seconds is all we need in another universe that Evelyn's in. Whether it's like the one where, you know, she's a sign spinner, or the one that like she, you know, of course, like the big one is the one that she's a movie star, you know, which i.e. she's Michelle Yeoh.
She's Michelle Yeoh.
Like they even used the footage of her at the Crazy Rich Asians premiere. So, which is
just
amazing.
Through her time as in Hollywood, I was just like, this is the best.
It's like, but like, that's like, we've gotten so much with so little. And Doctor Strange did feel like, and this is one of the cases where I totally get what Mike was saying earlier about fans bringing in too much expectation. Which I agree. But my only expectation was like, I wanted a universe where Benedict was wearing like a top hat, and like another one where like maybe he's bald and the mustache. I don't know. That's all.
Maybe he has a friend named Martin Freeman, and
maybe maybe Wong
he's like a detective.
Maybe Martin Freeman is Doctor Strange in one universe, and that's funny. You know, like what if Lucy Liu is the Supreme? I don't care. I thought we were gonna get. Please
hold on. What? Back up. Is that an option?
I I made an option. I made it an option in my brain, but in my head.
In,
but
in
like
another universe, it's an option.
it's another universe is an option. So yeah,
I'm out of here.
I'm not even I'm not even asking for like all the cameos that some of the fans were expecting. I just know I thought the fun is
the madness.
It's especially disappointing in the sense that like, and I'm not saying that I'm disappointed in the movie or the movie itself as a whole was disappointing, but this multiverse aspect of it could have been taken a lot further. When you've got a writer like Michael Waldron who has written for Rick and Morty, and that is all universe hopping, or even, I don't know if you guys ever watched Futurama, but there was an amazing episode where Fry and Leela go through this parallel box, the Farnsworth paradox, and you explore even more universes in that episode in that 20 minutes than you do the entirety of the 2-hour runtime of Doctor Strange. And I understand Marvel's trying to play it safe. You know, they don't want to, they I guess maybe the top brass at Disney doesn't want to weird people out too much. Maybe they wanted to go a little bit more Spider-Verse, where there wasn't a whole lot of universes explored in Spider-Verse 1. You know, you had the characters coming into one universe and then you stay in that one universe.
Right.
But at the same time, if you are able to experiment with something like WandaVision, if you're able to experiment with something like the Eternals, you don't need to play it safe with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, especially with a title like Multiverse of Madness. And if, you know, there's no excuse for you guys to have gone a lot crazier than you could have. Now, I love that you went crazy in the Raimi way, and that kind of saves this movie. But in terms of exploring different aspects of the multiverse that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe and a Marvel Cinematic Multiverse at this point, I think people would have been way more crazy excited to see all of that. What other aspects exist in this Marvel Cinematic Multiverse that we haven't explored? We explore 3, and that's it.
That's true.
You know, to that point, like the Marvel versus A24, right? Like, expect
let's go fight.
All right, so let's talk about Lamb versus Black Widow. Midsommar versus
Horseman versus Thor.
But like, if you think about the resources available with a budget that Multiverse of Madness had, that's why I'm a little underwhelmed, because it's like, man, you could have really showed us glimpses of a lot. But even to your point about Into the Spider-Verse, we didn't see a lot of their alternate universes, but it was enough, man. Like, it really, really was enough, like, to us to be like, it whet the whistle. But this is like, you know what I mean? We already got our whistle whet in Spider-Verse. Like, this was supposed to be something more, and that's my bad for having that expectation, but also disappointed by that. But I have to bring this up because when I interviewed the Daniels, they talked about how they shot their multiverse locations. They basically rented an auditorium. They built little sets inside of there, including the sci-fi RV, the apartment. All of that was built in here, and it was like a sound stage for like a high school theater. They said there was like a bunch of little cubicle sets. They filmed about 30 to 40 universes in like a day. They said. They ran around and just made it happen. They did costume changes and all that stuff. I appreciate that ingenuity and that passion, because I feel like that's like, they knew they were making a multiverse movie, and you couldn't get away with just being like, it's like, oh, over here they have red go lights and green stoplights
and pizza balls.
Pizza balls.
It's so different, you guys.
But they also have Bruce Campbell. We have that too. You know what I mean? No. Like, and that's basically something that's a glaring issue between the two.
I agree.
Yeah.
20% of the budget that Multiverse of Madness had, and they did way more with it, you know. That's unfortunate.
You know, especially with Raimi at the helm, you know, and I feel like with Raimi at the helm, I think he's proven that he is a filmmaker who has a lot of like very obvious style. We all commented that it's such a Raimi movie, but also I feel like Raimi could have done more if you asked him, you know, like you know, kind of like, you know, if he loves older films, he loves like many genres, not just the superhero stuff and not just the horror stuff. So part of me would have been like, oh, would have been fun if like one universe, like everyone talked like it's like a 1930s like comedy. because he loves those movies, and like everyone's like, well, here, see here, you know, something like that. And like it's Benedict doing it, you know. I think one of the fun of like WandaVision as a show is seeing how good Elizabeth was in all the styles of the show. Like that's one of the things I really loved about WandaVision. It was, if you didn't realize how good Elizabeth Olsen was and you only really saw her in the Marvel stuff, that show really made you let you know that no, she's very good. And she can do drama, she can do comedy, she can do like 80s sitcom comedy, she can do 1960s comedy, she can do Malcolm in the Middle style comedy, she can do like Parks and Rec style comedy. She can do all of that, not just one thing. And the fact is, like, you know, like you had this concept that like could have really pushed it if you wanted to, where you could have had Benedict play different styles and different variations. Same with Elizabeth. It doesn't have to be like one universe is the Fox X-Men or one universe is, you know, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man as an example. It's like, yeah, I get that you guys want to do that. And don't get me wrong, that is fun. But yeah, like have fun with it in other ways. You don't, you know.
I heard that there's a scene where America punches Wanda into punches the portal open and then the kids see her. I heard that there was a sequence where they actually do like multiverse jumping, you know? And I think that would have been a cool opportunity to see more universes and also see Strange have to like dream walk into multiple Stranges, you know what I mean? Like quickly, you know what I mean? Like just to figure it out. I think something like that would have been really cool and a visual spectacle. And that's just me like making like a fan thing up now, but like when I hear about that, I'm just like, damn, what could have been, you know what I mean? Like I don't get me wrong, I love the music fight and I loved seeing all these different Stranges, but like Defender Strange was in and out in like 3 minutes, you know? Like the scary Strange, who we all thought was going to be the What If Supreme Strange, it was just kind of like another dark Strange, you know what I mean? It wasn't quite the person that we thought it was, but I do want to say that Raimi did a good job at bringing a lot of humanity to Strange, in my opinion, because of the relationship with Christine. Rachel McAdams brought so much to their chemistry, I think. She's just so perfect at rom-coms and stuff. Like, I can watch her all day. I will point this out, though. When he says, I love you in all universes, that moment, for me, was saved by Rachel McAdams because she reacted in such a perfect way.
I'll agree to that.
But the line that in another universe I would have really liked doing laundry and taxes with you, that obliterates me every single time. Every single time I feel that, and I'm like, fuck yeah, that's what the Doctor Strange just needed a little bit more of, is like that little bit more of characterization, because I really gave a shit about Wayman's feelings, you know what I mean? And I was so proud of him for saying that in that moment. And it really is poetic and beautiful. And it's not I love you. I think sometimes I love you is an easy way out. And maybe for a Marvel movie, it was just like it needed to be big and dramatic. But like they've been through so much together. And he feels a lot of pain. I would have really liked to see a little bit more of Steven's heart, not just a Hallmark gift card, you know, like a Hallmark card of like I love you in every universe, but she still liked it. And that's a testament to Rachel McAdams.
Plus, the laundry line would have been perfect for them to do product placement for Tide, because there's Tide commercials with Wong.
Yeah, with Wong and everything.
That sounds like a nice universe.
I feel like, okay, so here's part of the discourse with Multiverse of Madness, and I'm not sure how much we should be really talking about this as 3 males, but the conversation about Wanda and is been so interesting to me in the factor that, like, you know, is this too far? Did they take her too far? This doesn't make sense. You broke all the characterization from WandaVision. And I've been hearing all these things. One friend of mine said I didn't like it because all of a sudden she just became a murderer. It doesn't add up, to which I'm like, okay. And I think personally, I don't know how you two are going to feel, But I feel like as I kind of stewed on a little bit more and kind of read some other things and kind of thought about it and talked to other people, I remember like, in WandaVision, which we kind of are forgetting, that came out a year ago. So the memory of WandaVision for most folks, unless you're a big fan of the show and you've rewatched it a lot of times, most folks probably watched WandaVision and then just stopped and then went cool. And then they waited for the next Marvel show.
Yeah.
And unlike, say, a Marvel movie, you could just go, oh, the new one's coming out, I'm going to watch this one. Again, you can't really go, I'm going to watch all of WandaVision again, because who has the time? Yeah. Not everyone. So I think everyone's collective memories of WandaVision is kind of being forgotten, because they kind of forget that Wanda, in my opinion, Wanda learned at the end of WandaVision to not, her mistake was bringing in other people into her trauma. And she realized that, and she, even if by accident, she has to not do that. But at the end of the show, she was still tapping into something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that shows that she was desperate to still make that reality work for her. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel like people kind of forget that last shot of Wanda getting too deep into the reality. And, it's whether how much of that is the dark hold literally affecting her brain, or just her processing her trauma in a very, I wouldn't say fast, but processing her trauma in a way that like this will make the most sense, because she's just so, like everything about it, her situation is just so, disastrous, that like this is an answer that she feels like it will be most right for her. Yeah. I feel like people are forgetting how much of that last shot in WandaVision was there to go like, that kind of is the setup. Yes. And I remember when we saw it, most of us went, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
She's not done. Yeah.
Yeah. I got strong opinions on this, so bear with me here, guys.
Please. Lay it on us.
Let's go.
If you ended WandaVision thinking that she was the hero at the end of that movie, then you missed the entire point of WandaVision. I'm sorry. That's the truth of the matter.
That's true.
She is not in a good place at the end of that show. And it doesn't matter. You think that she goes through these trauma. If you're saying that she does, she doesn't. There's no consequence to anything that she does, to holding an entire town hostage. And that's really what I wanted to see in this follow-up, was consequence. And guess what? We got it, which is why I was happy. I mean, certainly not happy in the, I love
I'm glad she's dead.
Kind of, yeah. But I was satisfied with this in a way that I was not satisfied with WandaVision, because she got off scot-free. There was no resolution there, and we get resolution here. It might not be the resolution that everybody wants, because everybody wants her to be a hero, but the story's not over yet. We might think that she's dead. She's not going to be dead, because
she's not dead.
Off-screen death, are never real. And
we also that little puff of magic.
Yeah, it is. She is literally the most popular character in the MCU right now. Marvel's not going to kill her off. She's more popular than Doctor Strange. Yeah. So if you are thinking that Wanda suddenly changed her personality, you're completely wrong. I hate to be honest, but you missed the point of WandaVision. For me, WandaVision is the Breaking Bad of the MCU. It is a deconstruction of a character and the trauma that she encounters, and how that goes from bringing her to a hero to a villain. And at the end of this, she is a bloody villain. So the fact of the matter is, maybe it's an easy answer to say, like she's corrupted by the Darkhold. You just wrote that in as a convenience sense. Maybe it is, but it's a legitimate answer. She's in a bad place. This thing is feeding off her feelings of negativity. And 1 year later, because this takes place 1 year after Westview, basically, of course it's going to give her, make her worse, because of that prolonged exposure and never having any sort of consequences, or never having any time to sort through any of those feelings. So if you completely miss the point of WandaVision, then you're probably pissed off at this movie, but that's your fault for missing the point of WandaVision. And if you've subscribed to an MTV Movie Award where she wins Best Hero, which perplexed me for whatever reason, because she's not a hero, then again, you missed the point of WandaVision. And it sounds like a lot of people did. So I'm sorry, guys. It had to be said.
And I'll just say this. If in your own series, an evil witch says, we're scared of you because you have this incredible power, and then you get a user manual on how to use that incredible power. Yeah, you're gonna dabble a bit, I think. And it's explained so many times through the movie that the Darkhold has an effect on you.
Yes.
Right.
Just accept it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, Steven literally in that the Dark Steven in that one universe was like says like the Darkhold has like I forgot what exactly he says, but like the Darkhold has like a hold on its reader or something like that. And you know, I first off, Mike, thank you.
Yes, that was when the Breaking Bad metaphor blew my mind.
No, you should see both our heads were like nodding. Yes, that's right. You're right. And like I feel like people weren't used to seeing Wanda in that way, and that's part of the reason why a lot of folks were kind of like shook by that. But it's like, but why can't a character like Wanda go through that? And go through that change? What's the, you know, and I think a lot, you know, there's a probably good chance most folks may not be used to that story being told with a female character, let alone a female character who's a superhero. And they probably weren't sure how to take that. Whereas I feel like, like you said, like that made it compelling. And you're right, Mike. Like that leads into what she does here. I think kind of beautifully, especially now that I had to really think about it. If you look at WandaVision as like one story of Wanda's arc, Doctor Strange is the finale of and the consequences of her choices in WandaVision. I remember the trailers were very good about hiding, well, is Wanda the villain really, or is there another bad guy we didn't meet yet, or you know, is that scene with her that a lot of folks are really, like grabbed onto, where she's like, oh, you do something, you do this, they consider you a hero, I do this, I consider the bad guy. It doesn't seem fair.
It doesn't seem fair.
And some folks probably read that as like, okay, but that's like one scene, but she's okay, right? No, I love how
everyone's like, but you're not gonna do anything bad though, right, Wanda?
Right. And
it's like, what do you think is happening here, stupid?
Right.
Watch the trailer.
And I love that when that scene happened, and I remember going, okay, let's see how this goes. And then at the end of it, and Wanda is the antagonist. Okay, all right, so this is clear. There's no nightmare, just kidding. It's Baron, it's Mordo or another secret villain. It's like, nope, Wanda's the antagonist. But I want to clearly state antagonist.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool. And really different. And again, I thought y'all keep saying that the Marvel movies are all the same, and
they
formulaic.
Just proved you wrong.
Yeah,
and they gave you a good fucking villain, one that they made you fall in love with early.
Yeah,
and you know what? Her hands have always been a little dirty because of her origins with her villain, guys.
Yeah.
She's always kind of dabbled in the dark because she had a shitty childhood.
Right.
She was kidnapped. Yeah. And she had this chaos magic flowing in her, and maybe a mutant gene she didn't know about.
Yeah.
There's so many. I think people just forget because it's like, oh, she loves Vision. And it's like, even more reason to be pissed because she doesn't know White Vision's out there.
Yeah.
She has no idea that guy exists, and that's not what her focus is. She wants her kids back, and we knew that in WandaVision. We knew that going into this movie. Yep. And my mistake, I thought Multiverse of Madness would be the MCU's House of M, and we'd get mutants, like a reverse House of M. But Multiverse of Madness ended up just being a mom movie, and I'm okay with that.
It was released on Mother's Day weekend, so I realized like, oh, you sneaky. You guys are sneaky. We all joked, ha ha ha. The acronym is MOM. Anyway, wait, you did release it on the first week of.
Kevin Feige's just like,
I'll do it right, everything, guys. Yeah.
Hat drop.
It's also important for her to be the villain, and here's why. You're dealing with two omnipotent characters here. Strange has all the power in the world from a eldritch standpoint, and hers is more of a chaos standpoint. But the thing is, Wanda never resolves at the end of WandaVision the things that she wants the most in this world. And this movie is all about her abusing that power to get everything that she wants in this world. It's also the same thing that happened to Sinister Strange. He tried to use it and abuse the magic and the Darkhold to try and get everything all at once. Sorry, not everything. Sorry, everything.
Full circle, baby.
Full circle. No. Everything that he wants, and to negative effect. Of course, both of these guys turn out to be terrible villains. For the character. Steven is constantly questioning in this movie about whether or not he's happy, whether or not he can just use these powers to get everything that he wants. That is his arc in this movie, essentially, is questioning everything that he's capable of, and whether or not he could use that to actually make himself happy, to get Christine or do whatever, to change his life. But then he sees through the examples of Wanda and Sinister Strange that it's not in the cards for him, and at the end he's satisfied with just moving on, not necessarily getting what he wants, doing the antithesis of what Wanda does, doing the antithesis of what Sinister Strange does. And that, to me, helps build the character a little bit. It's not the strongest arc in the world, I'm going to be honest. It's not. And it's not very clear. And Raimi is retreading on Peter Parker territory from Spider-Man 2. But at the same time, you can't say that it's not an arc, and you can't say that the reason for Wanda to go evil is unnecessary or unwarranted. It's perfectly warranted for Strange's character arc here, and in a Doctor Strange movie, that's kind of important. So,
and I kind of want to focus then, like, kind of pivot, because I feel like Jobu Tupaki is almost like, it's in a weird way. They have the same kind of like powerful reality in the middle, and again, they're clearly the villain, but their motivation is so interesting, because I think my favorite thing I realized, I learned about the creation of the film was that from the Daniels pointing out, like, when they were writing the script, then they're trying to figure out who the hero is, the antagonist, and the protagonist, and then when they came to the conclusion that, like, they said the protagonist, the superhero of the movie, is our mom, and the super villain is us. The second gen, the children of our mom. Then as soon as I heard that, I went, oh, holy crap. And that's something that's kind of amazing about Jobu Tupaki, is that, like, their motivation makes so much sense in the context of the film, and in the context of every Evelyn and every Joy, and when we have the grounded, unsuccessful Evelyn, and seeing her relationship with Joy, and it's so familiar for me, and to kind of see how, like, my family, how sometimes I talk to my parents, or how my friends talk to their parents, and it echoes so much that, like, Joy's, like, kind of, which turns into Jobu Tupaki's, villainy, kind of, like, makes sense when they have to keep seeing that version in every multiverse, and I feel like it's funny because, like, Jobu Tupaki and Scarlet Witch are not quite like they don't have the same thing, but yet again, like, bouncing from universe to universe, like, trying to control the situation. But Jobu Tupaki's situation is so much more, like, what they want is so much more cynical, like, what do you guys think about, what are your other kind of thoughts on that?
I kind of love that parallel that you just brought up, because their motivations are different, work for different reasons within the context of the film. But, like, Jobu's whole motivation was so relatable to me, because it's like literally in every universe, I'm still your daughter. You know what I mean? Like I can't escape that. Whereas Wanda's is a little bit more of like a hypothetical, like, if I can find these kids, then I'm gonna be their mom. And it also parallels the journey that I think Mike brought up, where it's like Strange is asking himself the whole time, am I happy? Am I happy? As an audience member in Everything Everywhere, we already know that Evelyn is not happy, and her journey then becomes not finding happiness, but being happy with the circumstances that she's already in. Whereas Doctor Strange, by the end of the film, he's still, yes, he's a little bit more grounded because he's accepting that he can't be with Christine, but he's on the lookout for the next thing. He's ready to face his fear, and like it's a little bit more complicated. There's there's like a sequel in mind there in a
Yeah.
sense, but like, but with Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think it's just like a grounded journey. Even Jobu Tabaki is this crazy, insanely powerful being who fights with dildos and makes heads explode into confetti, but damn does her fucking journey work in this movie. I think that you both brought up great points to kind of a big picture here, and like and another parallel too. Like it's really hard to avoid them with this kind of storytelling and the way like the characters are set up, you know. Does that make Ki Kwan Benedict Wong?
Hey, Christine.
Or maybe it's Christine.
You know, he's kind of Christine. That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess no, Ki Kwan is America.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Ki Kwan is America.
America, you're right.
Oh my
gosh,
yeah, and let's go ahead and make this the excuse to go ahead and talk about like our collective love of Ki Kwan.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's great in this. He's so good. We missed him, honestly.
Yeah. No, there's an amazing interview I saw of him where again he brings so much of his own heart in all these interviews that he makes me want to cry every time I watch any of them because he's so like personal about it. And this one interview said that like they were kind of, you know, he said like, you know, like he's so grateful for this experience and be able to, you know, be in movies again and etc. And the one interviewer, she was like, when you saying, you know, like you were gone and you didn't know how anyone, you know, you were gone. We as the audience who grew up with you were like wondering what happened to you. Like we were wondering and we were kind of sad that you just sort of disappeared. And he said, and then he said like, I never left. And I freaking started fucking God, Gee, I'm right. I'm seeing this on TikTok. Don't do this to me. You know, you know. But yeah, again, it's just you know, again, funny going back to Crazy Rich Asians. I know that movie, like the powerful thing about that movie is it didn't just like go, hey, Hollywood, do more movies about, you know, centered Asian films, Asian actors and characters, but he saw that movie and went, I want to go back.
I want the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he said, I felt FOMO. Like I'm like, wait a minute, I want to be back. I want to go back. And this movie is like a massive showcase of what he can do. It's the, you know, much like kind of like I said about Elizabeth Olsen in WandaVision, you can absolutely say that about Ki in this film. And like you all of a sudden, you kind of like I'm seeing people talk about who like realized like we were denied Ki Kwan performances for 20 years, and he goes all in on this movie in ways that I wasn't prepared for. You know,
it needed to be this movie. You know, it
needed to be this movie.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No.
Oh no, I was just gonna say to point out his performance. There were 3 different versions of Wayman that the directors gave him. Yeah. One was a squirrel, one was a fox, one was an eagle. And the fact that when I'm watching the movie, I know which one's which. You know what I mean? The way he fights. Oh yeah, there's Eagle Wayman right there. Oh, there's the cunning, you know, like Alpha Wayman, like, you know, like, and then there's Squirrel Wayman, which is the one that I love the most, which is just like it's every embodiment of the lovability of Ki Kwan packed into this like fanny pack wearing man. And just to his point, like we could talk about everyone's performances, but it was such a joy to see him back and also to strut his, quite frankly, not just Tony Leung energy, but real like James Bond energy.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like and seeing him fight and nail it, and like the fact that he was swinging around his fanny pack in his living room, knocking shit over because he cared that goddamn much. Like, I love that man, and I'm so excited for hopefully what's to come. I hope he becomes like the next It Man in Asian Hollywood, and then beyond.
Yeah. I mean, to me, you know, it needed to be this movie and it needed to be now. I think one of the reasons that he cited quitting was that they just weren't making good roles for Asian actors in Hollywood. And you know, not just after Crazy Rich Asians and everything, but the industry and the landscape has been changing So very rapidly, but also quite extraordinarily, to the point where he can come back now, and he doesn't
Yeah.
have to play the short round character, the
Yeah.
Data character. He could play everything, and Michelle Yeoh proved that as well. You could play everything, and that's the beauty of this movie is, for all the years that you typecasted these actors, they are getting their due in this 2 hours where they get to play all the different roles, and they get to show you every single thing that they were capable of that you didn't think that they were capable of because they weren't white. And you're putting that on screen and getting people's attention and having them realize we can freaking cast you in an Oscar movie. We can freaking cast you in a comedy. We can freaking cast you in a sci-fi movie. We'll cast you as a damn rock with eyes. I mean, like, and that's why this movie is so important. That's why it's so important that this is the vehicle that he comes back in, because he's getting to play every single role that he missed out on for the last 40 years in 2 hours and turning heads doing it. So I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful that this is the one that he chose.
No, and it's funny because I know he wasn't like they didn't write Wayman in mind. They didn't write that in mind for him.
No.
But what I found so powerful of his use is that I'm sure when they realized, oh, we got Ke Huy Quan, we have to use him. And the thing I realized, what bringing Ke Huy Quan into the film is that for us, the generation who grew up watching, him as Short Round and him as Data, and the fact that he still sounds so familiar, his voice still is echoes of what he was as a kid. That there are shots, I think intentional, in Everything Everywhere All at Once, where you see him like wear a hat that kind of makes him look a little bit like Data, or you see him, or Short Round, or you see him kind of just be charming and sweet. Like I said, this is Squirrel Wayman, and you see him talk, and it's so familiar. So in the back of my brain, I'm getting my collective memory of him as a child, but seeing him as an adult. And that adds to Wayman's like kind of charm when he's Squirrel Wayman. That like he sounds like how he was when he was Short Round and how he was as Data, except just a little older. But I can hear him, and this is the guy from my childhood that I loved. Because he's the one Asian kid I saw in a Spielberg movie. And he's hanging out with Indiana Jones and like going on adventures and such, and that adds so much to the character.
They do play off those expectations quite brilliantly, actually. I think because they know that this is Ke Huy, and because you know him as Data, the audience, we're going to equip him with a gadget pack. But guess what? It's not a gadget pack. He just pulls out lip balm and eats it, and that's the, hey, you thought you were getting Data.
No, Law.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Where's my fanny pack? No, you guys are so
crazy stuff now.
Dude, no, they knew exactly what they were doing, giving all of these people these opportunities to just like flaunt their stuff and flaunt their own stuff. These filmmakers killed it. But yeah, this was fun. I don't know if you guys have more, but this was a good conversation. I think.
I feel okay. So, but let's actually to wrap it up, because we can probably go on more because I know us. But to wrap it up, what at the end of the day, what is it that how do you guys feel like these two films, if we are gonna do the comparison between the two films, and even though I want to keep saying and stressing, yes, I know they are asking for two very different things, but what do you think, maybe if anything, that Doctor Strange could have taken from Everything Everywhere All at Once to make that movie even stronger? Because we liked it. I think all three of us agreed. We liked it, but we didn't love it. But we all clearly loved Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Clearly. Ooh. That's tough. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is without kind of the madness quality of the multiverse, it fell flat in a lot of ways. And to be honest, like you kind of were talking about the characterization of Strange, I would have really liked to see a little bit more vulnerability at this point. What is this? This like 5th movie in the MCU?
Second as the lead.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him be a little bit more broken, because a lot's happened post blip and before the blip, you know. Those are the 2 main things I think that could have really, I don't know, it could have made Doctor Strange 2 a real classic if they had something that really got my heart into it too.
I think, yeah, the imagination of Everything Everywhere All at Once and the grounded heart, I think. I'm not saying that Strange didn't have heart. It's a very fun movie, and I do love the movie. I mean, not love, but really, really enjoy, really like the movie. But I don't think that it had so much more potential than it brought to the table. And I think that, you know, there was on paper, you know, if you were a studio executive and you're reading Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's a 40 million budget movie or so, you know, with a cast of Asian cast of actors that's not like Tom Cruise levels of success. You know, it's easy to think that wouldn't have potential. And then it reversed. The potential was all in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it exceeded those expectations and that potential. And the expectations were so high for Strange and the potential that it had, and it just kind of shrank and diminished. It's not to say it's a bad movie, and there's lots of imagination from a Raimi perspective, but you could have gone full multiverse. I am curious as to what Scott Derrickson would have done and what the original plan was, because again, we shifted focus, we shifted storytelling. This movie had a lot of problems. It was reshooting everything, I guess, from January to, I don't know, April. And for what it turned out, amazing job, guys. You know, I mean, like, great job for like all the last minute constraints and everything like that. But you know, the Daniels didn't have any of those issues. They didn't need to have any of those issues to make themselves successful. They just were out of the gate. And I think if you poured in that same imagination, that same heart into Strange. And that's not to say that I don't like Strange as a character. I love Strange as a character. He's actually one of my top 5 MCU. But every reason that I like him, it's all contained in that first movie. You know, just that one scene where he's with the Ancient One, and she tells him, it's not about you. I'm stopping down, you know, time so I can just watch the snowfall. Beautiful, amazingly gorgeous scene. That's everything that you need to know about Strange, and that's what endeared me to him completely. He hasn't evolved that much, but that's also an MCU problem. Thor was nothing until Ragnarok, you know. Iron Man had a great first film and then didn't really do much until, I guess, Avengers a little bit. And then he kept constantly evolving. He's one of the best written characters in the MCU. But again, I think they have trouble with second movies sometimes. And I think maybe by the 3rd movie, they'll find their stride and they'll find a Taika and they'll with Strange. So I think that's very possible. But that being said, yeah, a little bit more heart, as Law was saying, a little bit more character and a lot more imagination would have pushed Multiverse of Madness to the same reception that Everything Everywhere has received so lovingly.
No, I think that we're not to completely repeat you too, but yes, I think that's the key. And it's so obvious when you watch these 2 films kind of relatively close to each other, and you realize, like, Doctor Strange needed just this more to be a little bit more. And like, it's nothing. It's like, I have seen way worse MCU movies. I've seen way worse second MCU movies. And I feel like this is one where, much like you said, Mike, like, I do feel like, it needs a Taika. It needs maybe the third time's a charm for Doctor Strange, and maybe they'll find like the right mix of creatives to kind of fill it out. I think the other problem with this movie too probably has like a little bit of Iron Man 2 problem, which is semi setting up the next stuff as a kind of priority. And it
Middle child movie.
And it's a little done better than Iron Man 2. But clearly. But I do feel like it's kind of, it falls from like everyone, they got so intense on that Illuminati scene. That at the end of the day, it's like, that scene was cool and kind of fun, but that doesn't really add anything emotional to the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, just a little bit more of what you said, Law, about like kind of giving Doctor Strange a little bit more struggle that's not just, oh, I wish I was with her, which, you know, that's fine, but
yeah, we all do, buddy. We all like Rachel McAdams. Come on.
We get it.
We get it.
But
make that character growth more apparent, though, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
a lot clearer.
A lot clearer. And, you know, we didn't, you know, like, obviously we didn't get a chance to, you know, we didn't have a chance to talk about, like, Wong and America. And, you know, I feel like those characters I liked and enjoyed enough in the movie. You know, Benedict Wong's my dude, you know? And I'm all here for the Wong cinematic universe.
Yeah,
I'm all ready for that. But also, yeah, I feel like even with those characters, you could have found maybe more room to give them even more. And as Mike pointed out, there's a lot of reshoots and etc. And
yeah,
I'm sure all that probably didn't help in terms of them reshaping the movie, but it is a miracle that it's still good.
Yeah.
So,
certain 100%.
Certain other movies from other studios that had massive reshoots have not prevailed.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe another multiversal movie coming up that should have some reshoots, but who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. We don't
Which one?
We will talk about it eventually. The Flash.
Maybe, the
Flash.
Mess.
Oh,
yeah.
That's going to be a whole other mess.
I love how you're like,
about.
oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
let's back up off of that real quick.
Yeah. I don't know how to.
I'll tell you this. I think I'm gonna like Doctor Strange more than that one anyway.
I don't want to be Mr. like, predictable, but I also like maybe like no, like, you know, but I don't know. That's
watch. It's gonna be amazing.
It
in it.
It could.
Andy Muschietti can surprise us. He's a good director.
That's true.
You know?
That's true.
Michael Keaton's amazing. You know,
and you know,
stuff to be excited about.
Yeah,
let's do it for them.
Yeah, let's do it for them.
Let's do it for them. I like that. All right. So thank you guys again. I could probably talk to you for like another 5 hours because that's how we roll. But I know we do these sporadically. It's like whenever we feel like it, and it's all MCU. But also, hey, it's our show, so you know. And we did something different today. We talked about a non-MCU movie.
Starting to segue closer and closer to A24 films, and that's it.
Yeah. Wait
and
till you see the conversation between Midsommar and Dark Phoenix. Wait till that.
Yeah, you guys are gonna love that. I will say though, I would love to catch up with you guys and maybe do a conversation of not just Turning Red, but just any kind of exciting Asian American content you watch over the month. I know this is gonna be we're at the tail end of AAPI Heritage Month. Mm-hmm. However, I think it'll be fun just to talk about it. You know, we have great movies that are just deserve a little bit more spotlight, and they're not necessarily all MCU.
Yeah.
They don't have to be.
They don't have to be. Great.
I'd love to chat with you guys about stuff I've seen, and like Turning Red is a big conversation. I think I'd love to have with the two of you. So we'll definitely have to do that sooner than later. But
Agreed.
I'm really glad we met this time too. These are two great movies, and a lot of buzz. So I'm glad we got into the conversation. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so you can follow. I'll start with the social media breakdowns. You can follow me on Instagram at Justin Quiz, Twitter at Justin Quizon, TikTok at Justin Quiz. I also do movie breakdowns and MCU talk there as well. And my podcast, you can find in my links on all those social media stuff. So go ahead and follow me there. Mike?
Sure. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at TinyBoyBoy182. But if you honestly want to see more from me, just hit up the nerdsofcolor.org and whattowatch.com, as well as That's It LA.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And you can find me on all my social platforms on Law J Sharma. Pretty easy to find. And then a lot of my video content and hosting stuff and interviews go up on Cinema Blend's website and YouTube channel. So you can find me there too. Yeah!
Yay! All right, let's get out of here, guys.
Oh, dude, that looked so good. He disappeared.